All right, we're ready to go.
Is it best if we mute ourselves?
Either way, it's up to you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to I'm Trained, Now What? This is, I think, one of my favorite sessions of our Dear Doula series because I feel like this is a step of the process where everybody has so many questions. So I'm looking forward to today. So I am the doula Darcy. I am a postpartum doula and lactation counselor and marketing mentor for doulas. And I love doing these series. And I'm here with my dear friend, Krista.
Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Maltais. I'm an advanced postpartum doula and postpartum doula trainer with Doula International. I'm also an advanced lactation counselor and the owner of Relief Parenting Respite and Resource Center in Hampton, New Hampshire. I've been working as a postpartum doula for almost 15 years and am excited to help get more postpartum doulas out there in the world. So I'm glad that you're joining us.
So let's start with one of the questions I got somebody submitted via email. And I want to start with this one because it's the question I get all the time. And it's like, okay, I've done my training, I'm working towards certification. When do I start trying to get clients? Like, when do I start my website? When do I, should I start a website? Should I start social media? And my quick answer is yes. The sooner you can get a website, get a social media presence going, the better. Because, I think you kind of have this fear that you'll make a website and then your phone will start ringing off the hook, but it just, I promise you that won't happen. And if it does, you can deal with it. But, it's good to have somewhere to send people. If you meet someone at the grocery store and you get talking about doula care, it's great to say, oh, check out my Facebook business page or my website. Here it is. And it gives you a little bit of legitimacy. Like, once you have a website, once you have a business page on Facebook, like, you're legit. So I always say, I think it's great to start out as soon as you can. So, definitely put some thought into what you want to name your business. But then go ahead and just, I encourage people to just make a one-page website. It could just be your name, your phone number, your email address, and, a little blurb on what it is you do. But another thing with websites is Google, someday you'll want to have a busy business where you're getting lots of leads, and Google, when it shows people your website, like if someone goes to Google in your town and types in doula, Google crawls around, and they have all these bots that crawl around and look for websites. And the longer your website has been in existence, the more like credibility Google gives you. So that's why it's good to have it there for as long as you can, because it just means you're more credible, more authentic. So the sooner you can get your website up there, the better. So
something that I like to talk about in when I train postpartum doulas is, when we start talking about business basics, I start thinking about like, okay, you're here, you're at the training, you want to start talking about getting clients right now because that's part of our certification process, at least through Doula International. And as Darcy said, right, like, so the first thing is like thinking about what's your name going to be. And, I do encourage you to give that some time and think about like what resonates for you, but also like what is going to be available, when you do a search, because you don't want to be the millionth fourth trimester postpartum doula care, right? But then also making sure that it's something that people are going to be able to recognize. And I tell this story frequently about when I first kind of launched my first business. I had lived in New Zealand for a while, and the koru in New Zealand, it's a fiddlehead. And it really resonated for me. And it means new life, growth, strength, and peace. I really loved it. My maiden name was Carlson, so I loved the idea of Koru Care, Krista Carlson. It made sense to me. But then I moved back to the United States, and my business name was Koru Care Postpartum Doula Services. And people were like, Koru? Doula. Postpartum means depression. And so I learned like it just didn't, even though it resonated for me and I understood it, it didn't correspond to other people understanding it. Beyond that, it was also just far too long a name. It was too long and it never fit on a business card or anything like that. So I do think picking a business name is really helpful. And Darcy is really great and has some tips and programs about how to choose your business name.
Yeah, I just posted the link to the blog post. So I conversely, just kind of by luck, chose the name Dover Doula. I live in the town Dover, New Hampshire. And I just thought, oh, that sounds catchy and cute. And it ended up being so awesome because to have the area that you serve, like your city or town, in the domain of your of your website. So basically, if my business name is Dover Doula, anyone in Dover that types doula into, whether they're looking for a doula to Google in my area, my website comes up first. So it was kind of luck that I chose that and learned that way, but it's, I highly suggest having if you can, the name of your town in your name and the word doula. But I explained further in those blog post tips that I just posted. But yeah, so I think that's kind of your first step. Once you're trained and ready to start working, like name your business, get a website up, get some social media profiles going so that you can start having conversations with people in your area. So what kind of questions do you guys have? You can either unmute yourself or type it in the chat, whatever. Or we can just keep talking.
How are you? My name is
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
My name is Alicia. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
And I just finished my postpartum in October.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of been kind of busy, but I just decided to go out on faith and leave my job. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse 29 years, but I just said, I'm going to try it. Let's do it.
Yay.
I think the pandemic has made us all a little crazy, so we do crazy things, but I just feel like it's going to work for me. It's something I really want to do. I'm 50. My son is gone. My granddaughter doesn't live here anymore. So it's all about me right now.
I love it.
So
Great.
I think the main question for me is putting together a contract.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay, so it took me a little while. And because I've been a nurse so long, that's all I really know how to do. So putting stuff on Microsoft Word was a little of a challenge. It's like, ask me about a pill, ask me about a wound. I got you. But putting stuff together was a little difficult. So to get together like yesterday, I spent like half of the day getting my pricing together. And now I'm trying to get a contract together. And I'm like, what do I say? Where do I go to find this information? So that's kind of really what's one of my biggest questions. So.
Alicia, do you mind? So where did you do your training through?
National Black Doula Association.
Okay. I just wonder because I know different organizations sometimes as part of their manual have templates available in the manual. So that's always a good place.
Right. She did have a template available. I kind of like to see difference so I can say, okay, this kind of goes with me. This kind of goes with me. This kind of goes with me. So I wanted another option just to see,
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is questions for sure that is really daunting for a lot of doulas is like switching from the care mindset and like the work that we do in home or virtually with families, and then like kind of changing gears and being like, okay, I simultaneously have to be a business owner and getting that up and going. And that can feel really challenging. And I was just going to say, and so Darcy, with all of her awesome downloads, has a contract template. And just remembering again that like a contract itself doesn't have to be like overly complicated. You just want to make sure that you have the critical elements of like, what's your role, what are the agreed upon like hours and scheduling, what's your, you know, your fee going to be charged, what's your cancellation policy, and like that's about it. And so it doesn't have to be extensive. But sometimes what I've developed and what I sometimes encourage other doulas to do is to create like an additional information sheet. And that's where you can go into more depth about, you know, specifically what your role is and your standards of practice according to your organization, and what are, you know, what do you do if a, you know, check bounces or so on and so forth. You can get more detailed about all of those different things, but the contract itself and the things that somebody has to sign doesn't have to be too complicated. And yeah, Darcy's template, it can be a great way to kickstart that.
Yeah, I think it's very scary to like come up with a contract. We think it needs to be 20 pages long and full of all these legal words. So the template that you can download there is just mine. It's 2 pages, like front and back. And it's very simple. And it's just, I like to encourage people to think of your contract as like just always changing. This is my contract that I have worked on for the past 10 years. Like every time a check bounced, you know, that wasn't in my original contract, but once the first check I got bounced, I added that into my contract. You know, once my first person canceled with 2 hours notice, then I added a cancellation clause. So just create, you know, download this one if you want, create your own template, and then just change. You can change it constantly from one client to the next. And
so it's not written in stone.
Exactly. Yes. I was really overwhelmed and scared about a contract, but if you think about it, it makes life easier for you and your client, because it's just right there in writing, like when their payment is due, what your minimum hour, you know, what your minimum fee is, and what you will. I really like it because it's just clear boundaries of, I'll help you with laundry and dishes. I won't mop floors or do yard work. But, you know, like that's literally my contract. So because I tend to be, I'm getting better at it now that I'm getting older. But when I first started out, it was really hard for me to like claim those boundaries especially with clients. I wanted to please everybody and do a good job. But so having a contract was like, here is my firm boundaries of what I will do, what's in the scope of a doula, like, and then I know, Alicia, as a nurse, that's one thing you'll probably want to be very specific about, like that and that is in the template, that you're not providing any medical.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a big, and I think I had to change my mindset a little bit because you know, in my world, I'm like, oh, let me call the doctor. Okay, there's no let me call the doctor because I can't get an order per se to do X, Y, Z, you know, but so, and you know, just kind of getting my mindset, okay, come on, change up a little bit.
Right.
But I mean, I'm naturally, let's see what we can do about this. Come on, let's take, so different, you know, it's different. But my mom was a midwife, so.
Oh, cool.
Right. And we're Trinidadian. So she was a midwife in Trinidad and she was a midwife here. So I know of the birthing world per se, but it still have changed quite a bit. You know, my mom's 80. So you know it has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's why thank you so much. Thank you so much for this platform, because
you're welcome.
I was like, oh my God, okay, this is perfect. Yeah.
Well, this is what Krista and I always talk about. Like we don't want these little things tripping you up. We want you guys out there helping moms, and don't, you know, and Alyssa, I don't know if I'm saying it right. She's saying welcome packets are her struggle. She thinks she's overthinking it all. That's so common. Like just so Especially with the pandemic lately, I've just been saying, like, just do it. Just do it. Nothing.
Well, I think you're right.
Perfect.
I think you're totally right. You know, Alicia and Darcy too. Like, I think people are really reprioritizing, you know, what's important, what kind of capacity do we want to work, what kind of capacity do we want to be with other people. And, you know, sometimes a pandemic is a time to just make changes, right? And yeah, and I think it is really easy to get stuck in our own heads and kind of be our biggest roadblocks. And so this is a huge reason why Darcy and I have collaborated to do this talk, is to like answer these questions and move people forward. And as for welcome packets, and, you know, I think people do this in so many different ways. Some people, you know, have something really formal and they have like a printed logo on the front and, you know, their contract and their letter of their additional information and their resource list and like all of these things like kind of formally put together. Other people don't have a welcome packet at all. It might just be like an email just saying like, hey, I'm excited to be working with you. So I think it depends a lot on, you know, your own temperament and your own sustainability. I think that's the other thing about being a doula is you can very much, as Darcy was saying with the contract, just keep evolving and changing. And if you start at one place where you're like, you know what, I really want to have a really formal packet and I want to include, you know, my resource list and my contract and my, you know, additional information about myself and so forth. And then a few clients later, you're like, you know what, this is a lot of work and I don't want to do that anymore, or vice versa. You can. And, you know, that's one of the nice things about having your own business is you can just continue to evolve and create scenarios and, you know, different things that work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, with the welcome packets, like I do, actually, I haven't lately because of COVID. I've just stopped bringing stuff, but I used to have the folder with like, Dona has a like list of the role of a postpartum doula. So I had that in there and my card and like resources and stuff. But I have, you know, other doulas that I work with say they have like a page on their website with, you know, links to commonly, you know, the thing is, once you start working, if clients in your area are always asking about sleep or how to burp a baby, you know, like you could have it on your website. What I ultimately have ended up doing is, it is great to have a welcome packet, I will say, to leave at a person's house. Again, pre-COVID, like when friends and family would come over, if they saw it, they'd be like, what's that? You know, it gets conversations going. That's good marketing for you. But now, you know, I definitely went through a time to like make life easier. You know, if a question came up with a client, I'd say, oh, I'll email you some information about that once I get home. Like, you know, I think now people don't want a lot of paper. So having kind of a electronic welcome packet or just information is great too. So yeah, you can just always be changing it up. So what other questions do you guys have?
So my question is, I have the Instagram. My website, I'm getting there. I just finished it. So now I have to work on getting it live. I feel confident. I finally narrowed down pricing and how I feel about that. But how do I get myself out there? Like, I feel like where I live in the Bay Area is really competitive. So I feel like it's hard to create a community where other doulas want to, you know, collaborate. Like it feels kind of hard to get there. So like, what can I do to get out there? What types of things should I be doing to move forward that way? I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of collaboration versus competition. I think I'm definitely a fan of like the rising tide makes all boats float kind of a thing. And it can be really, again, a little intimidating, especially if you're in an area where there are already established doulas, to kind of, how do you approach that? And I think one of the most important steps that I think many people just overlook is your approach on how you come and initiate conversations with people. And I know of many, experienced doulas, and we know kind of from the email or the phone call that we get about like how serious is somebody, because of how they're approaching it. If they're like, oh, hey, Krista, just tell me all your things.
Right. I want to pick your brain.
Yeah, like, can I just like pick your brain, right? It's very different than, I saw on your website that you offer X, Y, and Z, right? So that is one of my very first things that I encourage people to do in terms of getting out there, is do the research. So find who's in your area, look through their websites, look through their content, so that when you do approach them with an email, you can say, hey, I noticed on your website that you've been a doula for X number of years, and I appreciate that you specialize in whatever, right? But like showing them that you've done the work. Many experienced doulas will have, again, a willingness or an opportunities to like formally mentor, or to have a meet and greet, or they have different things in place, or they may offer like a consultation with a small fee, whatever it is. But like doing the work up front, I think makes a really big difference in terms of like setting the bar for establishing relationships and showing them that you're serious about it. And then while doing that, you're also getting great information about like what is already out there in your community and where are there gaps that could be filled. And so, for instance, Darcy and I, years ago, with another doula, friend of ours who's a birth doula, we really wanted to get out in our community because we saw that there just wasn't a place for pregnant people to come and get some information informally. There were only some like hospital groups. So that's how the three of us kind of started collaborating with one another. So I think, even though there may be like resource lists or so on and so forth, encouraging people to try and get out there and start putting their names out there, how you do it, I think, is the most critical element.
Yeah. And I'm always a big fan of, even this Dear Doula series that Krista and I are doing, like, I remember she was a doula first and I came onto the scene and I was scared to reach out to her. And because of my like advertising background, I was like, oh, she's the competition. I should not. But I really was craving like a mentor and some advice. And so I reached out, and blah, blah, blah. 10 years later, we're friends, and we've done so many cool things together just to raise the profile of doulas in our area. And it's just been amazing. Like, so much better than if I had not reached out and just positioned myself as competing with her. But so I think reaching out to the other doulas and saying things like, I'm new, I'm looking for people I'm wondering about backup, or asking what they're doing now with COVID, just instead of just saying, hey, could we have coffee so I can pick your brain and ask you, all the questions, say, here's how I could help you. I've had newer doulas reach out to me and say like, hi, I just finished my training. If you, so I'm offering, I'm trying to get my certifying clients at a discounted rate. If you know anybody, lower income family looking for a doula, that's a great way to reach out, or say you're trying to connect with other doulas to find someone to possibly partner with, or use as backup, or refer to when you get too busy. Or
sometimes creating like a doula support. So it's not even necessarily about like, obtaining clients, although that's, another ideal avenue. But sometimes it's just like, hey, as a newer doula, I'd love to create a space for all of us to support one another, and just start from there and kind of put out the invitation.
Yeah.
One of the doulas was I reached out. I'm not really shy, as you could tell. So I've reached out, and she said to me, she goes, she said, my personality is not going to fit everybody.
Right.
So she said, be sure, when you're ready. I was like, I'm ready I can say, you know what? You're not a good fit for me, but I think I have somebody. So I kind of been reaching out to a few of them because everybody's not a correct fit for everybody, and you may match up better. So I have two young ladies that are like, oh yeah, definitely. If I have like, I guess extra, if you want to call it that, they'll be glad to, look out. So I'm all for reaching out to others. And I guess maybe I don't take it as competition. I take it as more support.
Yeah.
So, and they've been all very like, oh yeah, no problem. And I mean, I'm constantly reading. My girlfriend says, you're obsessed. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to live my life with this here. This is where I want to retire from. So yes, for me, this is my life. This is what I want to make my life. I did home health for like 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good. And now I'm really going back in the home, but still in just a different capacity.
Oh yeah, it's a much less stressful capacity.
Yes.
Fun capacity. You're gonna love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody comes from like, so many different pathways, and everybody has different skill sets and different experiences that make you unique and marketable. And so I think that's one of there's so many different facets, but when people are first starting out and trying to say, how do I get myself out there? How do I connect? Right. It's sometimes just about, I was just recently having a conversation with a newer doula, and she was like, okay, I have this imposter syndrome, like, how do I feel confident enough to like go out there and just do it? And so I told her, sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it. Right. And think about yourself as if you were another doula friend, right? So like, if you have to like stand in front of a mirror and be like, okay, I'm talking to you, mirror doula Krista, right? And these are your qualities that I notice, or these are the, experiences that you've had that can help get you out there. And so, everybody, I think the most important qualities about being a doula is, having an open heart and an open mind, and being there for the families in a really authentic and non-judgmental way. And if you can do that, you can be a doula. It's just a matter of continuing to make those connections and get out there. And sometimes that just means you got to kind of put on your doula persona and just keep getting out there, but you got it. I see here in the chat, Elisa said, is there an email or management system that works best? And she had particular thoughts on HoneyBook. I'm not familiar with HoneyBook, and I think there are many different kinds of email and management systems. I know many people will use a Google account just to start, like a Gmail, because it's free, and you can also have like a Google phone number, so you're not giving out your personal phone number as options. So I know that that's pretty popular for people when they're first starting out. Depending on the website host that you choose, sometimes there is an email associated with that as well. Darcy, I'm not sure in terms of your marketing experience, if you have particular platforms that you prefer.
Yeah, I don't have like a client management system. I don't use Dubsado or I've heard lots of doulas do love HoneyBook. I'm just old fashioned, so I have an Excel spreadsheet with clients I'm in touch with, and then I use MailChimp for emailing like a monthly newsletter. But other than that, I mean, I think the thing is, especially when you're first starting out, you only are going to have a handful of clients that, it's very easy to just use this plant is hiding my whiteboard, so people can't see the names. I just have their names and due dates on a whiteboard. You can start out simply and then use a management system for keeping track of everybody once you need it and you're a lot busier. Another thing I was going to say to you, Nicole, is another great way to get started with networking with other doulas is reach out to other doulas, via email or whatever, and ask if there's a local Facebook group for birth workers or local meetups. I know probably not now with COVID, but before COVID, like in our area, we had like monthly, someone organized it, like a monthly coffee date just at a local coffee shop, just a chance to just be like, it's good to have other doulas to just kind of decompress with and share. So, and then if there's not a Facebook group and if there's not monthly meetups, start one up, that'd be a great way to get your footing in a community. Like just start a Facebook group. And I personally love the Facebook group we have in our community. And it's just like, you know, the birth doulas in there are like, I talked to a mom who's due November 12th. I can't take it. Who can take it? Or who's the best blah, 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 acupuncturist for inducing? You know, everybody just posts questions, and it's a great, easy way to connect. And so find out if there's one in your community. If there's not, just be the person to start one. And, you know, I think always coming to the other doulas with a spirit of collaborating and supporting each other is just great. And, you know, is only going to benefit all of you. And, you know, because at the end of the day, there's thousands of babies being born in your area. I know there's not enough doula, you know, we all have to come together to help all the moms and babies. So.
And Nicole, not sure who you took your training with as a birth doula, but with Doula International, there's kind of a almost like a Facebook or social media for doulas specifically called Doula Connect. And so depending on your different organizations, there may be, again, a particular platform internally for that organization that you can search by, you know, different area or different interests or advocacy or whatnot that can be good ways of connecting people as well.
My question was, what would you say would be a manageable amount of clients a month? Let's say a month for sake of argument. Obviously with births, you only maybe can do 2 beginning of the month, end of the month, because, you know, we never kind of exactly know when they're coming. But as far as postpartum, what would be your, you know, reasonable number to have?
I think that's very personal. I think it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to work, you know, full time, what does full time look like? Is it 40 hours a week? And what do the families need? And there's always such it's almost like a train station, like who's phasing out, who's approaching their due date, how many hours are they looking for? So trying to figure out, again, like I always come from a place and try to encourage doulas to start with what's your ideal and trying to get as close to that as possible and then working from there. And so over the years, before I had my children, I was definitely working full time, like at least 40 hours a week. And I would on average juggle 4 to 6 families. And so I would kind of work things. So it would be like, I would come and see somebody from like 8 to 12, and then I'd travel and eat lunch in the car. And then I'd see somebody from, you know, 1 to 5, and then I might fit in a phone call, you know, so like it got really busy. But then as my priorities changed and I started having children and whatnot, now, you know, it's not my priority to have that many clients anymore. So I think it does very much depend on like what you feel you can take on. And that looks different for everyone. Yeah.
I was going to say my kind of sweet spot has been about 3, but when I started as a doula, I had 3 little kids. So I didn't even have 3 because I would, you know, I don't know. So any more than 3 for me feels like no free time. It's too much. But now my kids are teenagers, so I could do more than that. But even more than that, you know, like Krista said, it's so hard to schedule because you don't know when someone's going to, you know, someone could be 2 weeks early or 2 weeks late. Someone could hire you for 6 weeks, then they love you and they want you to stay 3 more weeks. So it's like you're always shuffling. So I feel like 3 is manageable. When I have had, there's certainly been times where I've had more than that. And it's just, you know, like Friday night comes and I'm like, you know, so I don't, you know, so I think you have to think about that. Like you're saying your kids are gone, you're at a different stage. So, you know, how many hours do you have available? How much do you need to earn? That's another huge piece for me. You know, it's one thing to work a full week when you're getting paid really well. It's another if you're bending over backwards and working 10 hours a day and you're not really paying your bills, you feel resentful. So kind of finding your sweet spot of the hours you want to work, the rate you want to charge. And again, it's fluid. You can always be changing it. So.
And I think it's realistic to anticipate it takes time to build up. And so many new doulas coming in have a lot of excitement and a lot of passion. And they're like, yes. And as Darcy said, like, you know, I'm going to get a website up and then there's going to be like so many people calling and my phone's going to ring off the hook. And that would be awesome. But the more realistic thing to think about is you will likely start with one client and then phase and then start to maybe add a second one in and so on and so forth. So it takes some time to build up. And that's helpful in a way because then it helps you find your footing as to like how do you manage the emails? How do you structure your time? So it's all a learning process. And that's where it's really great to be able to have, again, other doulas as support and mentors and, just to be there to troubleshoot as things come up. So any other questions before we wrap up for this session? If anyone is interested, I often will, again, mentor doulas through, through their certification process, particularly with Doula International, as I'm a Doula International trainer. So I can put a link up for that. I also have a variety of different postpartum doula trainings coming up, including a 14-week program that combines the curriculum of the workshop with the certification requirements. So I will post that information. And as you're going through your you're starting off and your journey through, if you ever need anything or if you have questions, Darcy and I are always here because we really want to help ensure that there are more doulas out there in the world. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm excited because I'm launching and just kind of figuring it out right now, a monthly membership for doulas.
Nice.
That's kind of this kind of thing, like come in, get your questions answered, and with a big tilt towards marketing and promoting that. That's before I was a doula, I worked in advertising and marketing. So it's so new that I'm kind of looking for the founding members right now. So there's no website or anything, but I can email you guys some information about it.
Definitely. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
That sounds exciting. Yeah.
Exactly what I wanted when I was I keep saying, like, when you start to be a doula, you kind of need a doula to help you get through all these hurdles so that you can get out there and help. And even as you go along, it's nice to have support and a community. So
this was great. Oh my God.
I actually have one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm working on building my referral list, and kind of where I'm based, I can go either way. So I kind of need to have two lists because they're kind of far apart on either side. But my question is, what is a really good way to reach out to people to put on my list? Should I meet with people, meet with acupuncturists, or try to meet with people, or what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah. Pre-COVID, I would say, yes, go meet with them. And so I think the best thing to do right now is send an email and say, hey, I'm a new doula. I'm looking for an acupuncturist for, people always ask me where to go, for labor induction so I'm looking to build my referral list. I'd love to have some of your cards. And if you're open to it, I'd love to meet in person. Give the option of would you want to do a 10-minute Zoom call just to meet, or I could stop by and drop off my cards and grab some of yours, or, and then, they might write back and be like, yeah, that's great. Or if someone writes back and seems really excited, maybe you meet for coffee. There's going to be people you reach out to that you could go have coffee with, that you make a great connection and they turn into a great referral source for years. There's going to be people that don't respond. So or that, and it's fine. An OB is probably not going to respond to you, but a local.
What do you mean?
But a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or photographer, they're trying to get more clients and run their businesses too. So, they probably will respond to you. So
also, I encourage you set up like a specific time. So it's like similar to postpartum doula families, right? When they're kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know, right? You know, small business owners, I know at least for myself, if someone's like, okay, why don't I come by Friday at 1 o'clock? You know, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. So trying to be specific and then following up, because I think anytime you can say like, oh, great, and keep that conversation going. I really loved meeting with you. Thanks so much for your cards. Can we, you know, check in again next month? Right. And then like make a plan to follow up. It's that like being consistent and keeping that conversation going that's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah. And the same as reaching out to other doulas, like don't make it all about you. Like I'm trying to make a referral list, like say I'm adding referrals to my website. I'd love to include your link. Is that okay? Like show them that you're going to hand out, you're going to also refer your clients to them. So I think that, you know, people always appreciate that. And you know, Krista and I always say that process of reaching out to people and building your referral list is huge. I mean, that's how you're going to build your business. That, you know, meeting the people in the community that will refer families to you is huge. And it takes time. And, you know, like I said, some people will be really responsive and some people you might not hear back from, but I think right now with COVID, email is the way to go. And then based on the response, you know, whether it's a Zoom or a coffee or a drop off.
I actually love the Zoom now. I mean, well, you know, this is a change in the world. So it's just like you still get that face to face and you're not just, the telephone is cool, but the Zoom, I liked it, you know, I like it. So I'm happy. It gives us an option.
Yeah. And you don't have to drive anywhere and find a parking spot and fill the meter and go it like it.
Like I was running in the house. I'm like, it's 12:30, you know. I was like, come, let me get in here. I'm so glad, but I didn't want to miss. But you imagine if I wasn't able, if I had to go, I would have definitely been later because I would have had to find a park, get my thing, go and put my mask on. So I like the Zoom. It's pretty good.
It's good. So, it's been so great connecting with all of you. And like Krista said, stay in touch.
We will. I will.
This was great. I really enjoyed this. This was
yes, I loved it.
So glad. Well, hopefully we'll see you again next week. And yes, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will, I'll send everyone a link with the recording so you can look back on our chat and our info as need be. And hopefully we will be seeing you again next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye.